What's up, guys, and welcome to episode 21 of the Yard Podcast. I'm your host, Randy.
And I'm your host, Conan.
And before we get into this episode, as always, just want to say thank you to you guys for listening, giving us something to look forward to every week. Your support means everything to us. But with that said, though, if you haven't subscribed to the podcast or left a rating or review, we'd appreciate it if you took the time to do so. And before we get into this episode, check out our new and improved website at DodgerYard.com. It's a place for fans to share their thoughts and share their stories or analysis on games, players. There's open forums. You can choose what you'd want to talk about, whether it's a specific player, whatever's going on in baseball. We'd love to see what you guys have to say when it comes to this year. Plus, there's a no character limit like there is on Twitter, which is probably my favorite part about it. But you can find all of our social media at Dodger Yard on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. On YouTube, we've got all the post-game and pre-game interviews with Roberts as well as the players. And then you can find my personal at Randy_Radcliffe.
And you can find my personal at Michael Konu, MYKALKONU.
All right. And so now that I've done enough talking about us, let's get into the stuff that everybody actually wants to hear about. So the Dodgers currently sit at 34-15. Since our last recording, they've only played about 500. Well, they've played 500 baseball, going 3-3. They're 2.5 games ahead of the Padres in the division. And for the rest of the season, we've only got 11 more games. So we've got one against the Padres tonight. Then we head off to Colorado for a 4-game series. Last off day is on Monday. And then the A's come to town for a 3-game series. And the Angels come to Dodger Stadium as well for a 3-game series. And then that is it when it comes to regular season baseball. So
sorry to cut you off, but I wanted to say, like, at the beginning of the year when we did predictions, I have the Dodgers around 34 wins. So they're going to blow right past that.
I know. When I gave my prediction, I think I said like 36, 37, and you were like, damn, that's a lot. And I was like, it is, but we're going to go with it. And so we'll see. I mean, they could still finish at 40 wins. So they have 11 games. They really just need to play barely 500 baseball, and they're going to come away with 40 wins in a 60-game season, which is pretty damn crazy. All right, so let's get into the Dodgers news. Yesterday, Kelly finished serving his 5-game suspension, so he will be back tonight, back in the bullpen for us, which is great. He's been throwing at the alternate site as well as some bullpens, so he's coming off. He came off the IL about 5 days ago, right before he served his suspension with that shoulder inflammation. He's been out since August 9th, so we will see how he does. I'd like to see him out there. I kind of think he's important to this bullpen, so I hope they get the work in because, like I said, they only got 11 games left. But some other injury updates. Good news, Justin Turner returned to the lineup last night for the first time since going on the IL on August 29th with a hamstring strain. Josh Sborz was optioned to make room for him. He was the DH, and Roberts said he expected him to stay this way for about 3 to 4 games. In his first at bat back, he did what you expect Justin Turner to do. He had an RBI single. He went 3 for 4. He had 3 singles and that RBI, like I mentioned. Great to have him back in the lineup. We've needed him with the way things have gone offensively lately. Baez was activated on Saturday. He came back, so Dennis Santana had to be optioned to make room for him. He's been on the IL since August 20th with a right groin strain, and he's had a couple appearances since returning. They haven't been great, but there's some argument that some of it wasn't his fault, could have been defense, so we'll see how that goes. And then on Friday, Jock was reinstated from the paternity list, and Matt Beatty was optioned to the alternate site. So that's really it for the news this week. So let's get into the more interesting stuff and do our pitcher and hitter of the week. This is from September 9th up until last night's game. So I'm going to give you my pitcher of the week, then I'm going to ask you for yours. I think it's almost impossible for us to match up. I hope, because we keep doing this. I said this last week too. So anyways, I'm cheating a little bit because I'm doing the bullpen as a whole, not over the last week, but one game in specific. And it was that second game of the series against the Astros. It was a bullpen game, and oh man, they dominated. Over 9 innings, they only gave up 4 hits. They gave up the one run with 10 strikeouts and 1 walk. Floro gave up the only run of the game on a solo shot to Springer. But other than Floro, we saw Gratterall, Spores, Gonzalez, McGee, Wood, Ferguson, and Jansen, and they held it down for the entire game. One last thing, though. Actually, let me give me your pitcher first, because I don't want to say this just in case he's your pitcher of the week. I was going to do an honorable mention, but I don't want to take him just in case. So give me yours, and then if not, I'll say it.
Before I get into my pitcher of the week, I just wanted to say Gratterall's first inning against the Astros was ridiculous. It was 3 strikeouts, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think he had the first 7 pitches, I think, were straight strikes.
That's the Gratterall I like to see. Anyway, my pitcher of the week, it happened last night. It was Tony Gonsolin. He only struck out 2 batters, but he went a really strong 7 innings. Never was really in trouble. He got plenty of swings and misses and weak contact. So, yeah, Gonsolin was pretty much my pitcher of the week.
All right. Well, I'm glad I didn't say anything because he was my honorable mention. He was fantastic last night. As for my hitter of the week, I can't imagine we don't run into the same guy, but I'm going with Will Smith. I don't really know how we can go with anyone else at this point. Dude is killing it. Okay, well, I guess maybe we can. We'll see after mine. Over his last 5 games, he's slashing .474, .524, .632 with an OPS of 1155. He has 9 hits and 19 at-bats, 3 doubles, 3 walks, and 2 strikeouts. I personally felt like nobody's looked better at the plate recently, but I guess you have someone else in mind, so who is it?
I wouldn't say he was necessarily better. It's just I give him a lot of shit.
It is him.
I gave it to Kiké.
He's been good.
Over his last 5 games, he's hit well over 300 with 2 home runs and 5 RBIs. I was going to go Smith because no one had more hits than him, but I went with Kiké because Smith didn't have any home runs or RBIs, and Kiké had 2 home runs and 5 RBIs. So, yeah. And despite all the shit I give him, he had a great week. So, I'll give it to Kiké.
All right. I respect it because I didn't see that coming, actually, until you said that you didn't have the same guy. That was my next thought, and we'll get into why in a little bit. Actually, you know what? I'm going to talk about it now. No reason to transition into that again. But since you brought up Kiké, you saw this. I told you I wanted to talk about this. And after doing some research, I am convinced that shaving his mustache is the best thing that he's done. So he shaved his mustache on September 9th. And since shaving his mustache, he's slashing .357, .438, .786, and he has an OPS of 1223. He has 5 hits and 14 at bats. 2 of them are home runs. He hit one of those home runs his first game without the mustache. Like you said, he's got 5 RBIs. He's walked twice, and he's only struck out 3 times. So, Kiké and the mustache is starting to kind of, I feel like, go with the theory of Kiké and the tight pants. Maybe 2020 it's a mustache thing instead. But he's doing good without that mustache. So there is a little bit of a theory that I have seen going around on Twitter about that. And when I saw it, I had to double check the stats, and I shouldn't have doubted you guys because you were correct.
It's funny because honestly, I didn't know he shaved his mustache, so I don't pay attention to people's faces until I read the doc, and then I was like, wait, what? So I had to go look, and I was like, oh, wait, he really did shave his mustache. So my thing is, he was on one of my people who can break out just because he's been pretty bad all season, but he does get these hot streaks, and he hasn't had one yet. So my main thought was, well, he hasn't had one yet. It's bound to happen at some point. And right now he's in the midst of one.
Yeah, and I just want to tell you it's not because of a breakout. It's because of the mustache. That's what we're sticking with. I got to go with that. It's the theory. Sorry. He's I'll give you your breakout. I'll let you have the breakout, but I'm going to say the breakout came because of the mustache. There, I'll put it that way.
It was the mustache, right?
You got your breakout.
The mustache had to go. Got it.
Yeah, no kidding. It wasn't looking too good anyways. No offense, Kiké, but with that said, Kiké's been our second baseman pretty much for the most part all season. Thursday night, we saw someone a little different playing second base, and it's not all that surprising because, well, Mookie did come up as a second baseman, but the Red Sox did transition him into an outfielder. Last time he played second base was 2018. for the Red Sox and his first start at second base since 2014. We don't really have to spend much time on this because I don't know how much more it's going to happen. But that was something else.
Well, they did say he might a few more times before the regular season's over, right?
Yeah, they did say maybe once or twice. I don't know if they had talked about this because they were worried about Kiké just full on slumping and they wanted to leave Muncy at first and put Mookie in at second, and maybe that was the thought process. And Mookie's a hell of a defender, but if for any player, when you go that long without playing that position, it's different than taking ground balls during practice like he does every day and then actually being out there during a game. So I've got all the respect in the world for Mookie. I guarantee if they put him out there for a few games, he'd pick it right back up pretty easily. But I have to mention that very first play. I know you weren't watching. Did you go back and watch that play that I told you about or no?
Actually, no, I couldn't find it on Twitter, and I tried to look on Google, and I couldn't find it either.
Damn.
It just kept telling me about the last time he played with the Red Sox, and I was like, I clearly typed in he fell.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was not an easy play, so I don't want to be like he just tripped over his feet, but the way it went, like the way he tried to move, it was just a misstep, and it almost looked like his feet got tangled or he stepped wrong, and he fell right back on his ass. And quite frankly, I was laughing. I wasn't even annoyed. So many people on Twitter were upset about it, but like this team has been playing.
Yeah, I was a bit annoyed. It just, for me, it didn't make sense. Like when he told me, I thought it was a joke. So, like, I was laughing, and then I saw the lineup, and I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Kiké's playing, put him at second, and put your all-gold glove right fielder in right field. Now, I know he asked for it, so I guess that's fine, but it just didn't make much sense to me.
Yeah, I was okay with it for that one game. I do not care to see it again. I got a little frustrated as the night went on. I don't know if there were a lot of people who were commenting and made it sound like the outcome of the game would have been different if him and Kiké switched positions. I don't think that's the case.
I don't think so.
The Dodgers only scored 2 runs that game, so I don't think that really would have mattered. I enjoyed it that one night. I do not care to see it again, let alone in the playoffs. So let's just hope that doesn't happen. The other, I think, kind of the most interesting thing. Well, actually, the most interesting thing we might have seen is come on Monday, but we'll get to that. This weekend, did you see all the pictures, all the videos, everything that went on with the Astros showing up to Dodger Stadium?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
That was something else. I obviously did not go. I'm not even in California. I know you're not too close anywhere near there.
Yeah, no, Sacramento, too far.
But I did not see that much coming of it. There was a lot. There were a ton of signs. People brought out their own trash cans. They had signs. I don't know whether or not this is actually true, but there was something going around on Twitter saying that the Astro players had actually sent a decoy bus and that the players weren't on that bus and that they went up a different gate, which is actually pretty incredibly lame if you're the Astros. Like, really, I don't know if I believe that at all. But if that is true, I think that's pretty lame that they're doing that.
Well, I mean, if we're being honest, they're really just a bunch of bitches, so it wouldn't surprise me at all.
It wouldn't surprise me either. I just, like, I don't know. Like, how far are you going to go? Like, because you can't take the heat that you guys cheated. I know they can't.
I mean, just like a few weeks or last week, my dad was telling me about how Josh Reddick was complaining about woe is me, everybody hates us, and about, like, it's your own fault, guys. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, I more so than anything, I think I'm just kind of hoping that the Dodgers didn't allow it and say, sorry, COVID, we only have one gate open and like made them go through. That would
be petty and funny.
So I kind of hope that happened. I don't know if you saw the other videos. Clayton Kershaw drove up. He was recording the fans. He had his window rolled down, like cheering on the fans. Joe Kelly pulled up.
I think I saw Joe Kelly one year.
Yeah, in his Porsche, and he was honking like crazy. So it was cool to see the Dodger players actually support it because, you know, they can't really do as much as they'd like to do. I know some people thought it was over the top. Some people didn't care for it. I'm all for it as long as you aren't doing anything that is going to allow the Astros to call themselves the victims, and I don't think Dodger fans did that. I was a little worried about people maybe taking it too far. I was hoping like they wouldn't try to throw stuff at the bus, and it looks like they didn't. So I'm actually really happy with the way it came out, because it looked fun, and I feel like it didn't make us look bad, and that was kind of my concern more than anything. The
Astros are going to have to get used to this. I mean, like I mentioned, they deserve this, and it's really not going to get any better when fans return.
Yeah, and I think the funniest thing is a lot of people thought like 2020, the Astros are going to get this break because there's no fans. If anything, I think this has made it worse because now fans have really had time to sit on the suspension. They've seen Joe Kelly suspended for 5 games for it was a bullshit suspension. There's no other way to put it. So I think this might have actually made things worse. The way the players have reacted to the fans instead of just saying, you know what, we screwed up. We're sorry. There's nothing we can do to take it back, and just allow the fans and other teams. If they would have just let other fans and players say what they wanted to say and kept their mouth shut, there's a very good chance a good chunk of this would have blown over before 2021.
Absolutely.
I don't think there's any way that happens now, especially with Astros coming to LA next year and the Dodgers going to Houston next year. So I don't think it's going to get any better, which I'm all for it. I don't care. I'm all for the Astros players having to live with this the rest of their life, getting booed, people hitting trash cans wherever they go. So keep giving it to them. Just don't take it too far. Keep it in the signs.
So my dad just sent me sorry to interrupt you, but my dad just sent me a message saying that Dustin May has been scratched.
Oh, shit. Well, okay. Well,
Gratterall starting.
That's not ideal at all.
No.
Okay. Do you know did he say where he got this by chance? Because I'm trying to see.
He just said, sorry to interrupt your recording.
Oh, shit.
But
13
May
minutes
has been
ago.
scratched with his game, and Gratterall is now starting.
Yep. I just saw it. Damn. Okay. Oh my God. I love how the first comment underneath that post is, what the hell, Roberts, make up your mind, as if this is on Dave Roberts. I can't sometimes.
Well, Dave Roberts gets blamed for everything.
Yeah.
And sometimes he does deserve some blame, but
no,
yeah.
He does. But I really want fans to know that Roberts does make he makes all those in-game calls, but when it comes to creating the lineup, what pitchers are starting, if they want Gratterall to start, like, that's not just Roberts making that decision. Like, that's a team decision.
Yeah.
It comes from the front office. It comes from the analytics people. It comes from the training staff. Like, Roberts is just the one whose name is there and is the one who gets blamed for it. But, like, it's a collective thing now. If you want to blame Roberts for bullpen decisions, taking pitchers out, be my guest. That's in the moment game stuff. That's on him. But for the most part, stuff like this, that's not on Roberts. Oh, wait. What is going on? So now they're saying Dodger Blue 1958 just tweeted, Dave Roberts said Dustin May will still pitch today, just out of the bullpen. So there's a whole mess going on right now. I don't really want to spend...
he's not starting, but he's going to pitch?
Yeah, I don't know what their plan is there. Maybe they're thinking he's just not going to start in the playoffs, and that maybe Gonsolin will now get that spot in the rotation and May will come out of the bullpen, but we'll see.
Okay.
Don't want to spend...
I mean, Gonsolin's earned it.
Yeah, he has. Especially for that first round. I mean, you could stack a Gonsolin in May or Urias in May if you wanted to. So, yeah, I don't want to spend too much time on it just because by the time this episode comes out, people already know about it. So we'll be able to hopefully have an update next week. I just hope he's healthy and ready to go, because we need him, especially not knowing what's going on with Buehler's blister right now.
Yeah.
So since we were on the Astros, I want to go over this just really quickly. But Urias' start against the Astros, I was very happy with that one. I think both of us were a little stressed out when we had talked about the potential pitchers. I remember you saying, "Oh boy," when I had mentioned Urias for that game, and I was on the same page with. I was on that same page with you. I felt the same exact way. But he did pretty great. Went 6 innings, 3 hits, 1 earned run, 3 strikeouts. The issue was the walks. Which has kind of been his issue, I feel like, all year. He's got a little bit of a command issue, but you pay a lot more attention to this kind of stuff than I do. Was there anything you wanted to touch on that you saw from him from that start that kind of made you, like, feel like, cool, this is a good sign we're heading in the right direction? Or, like, where are we at with Urias?
Yeah, so I wrote about this, and you guys can check that out on dodger.com. But for me, it was a mixed bag. I will say I did think he did a really good job navigating through some trouble and navigating through all the walks. But again, the walks were an issue. He had 5. That's and I think in a postseason situation, let's say we're playing the Padres or something, I don't think that's going to work. I don't think it's going to fly. So I'm not going to say he's trending in the right direction because, again, the walks are still an issue. But he did a good job navigating through it, and hopefully he continues to do that because I don't see his command getting any better anytime soon.
Which is not ideal because it seems like he's got the stuff. It's just the lack of command. That seems to be killing him. It's also that first inning. I think on the first inning, his ERA is something insane.
It's like Kershaw last year. Kershaw had trouble the first inning.
Yeah, all those home runs and stuff. Urias, same thing. It's like a 5 or a 6 ERA, but then after that, it's like a 2.5 or something like that. He's not bad at all after that first inning. But it's the same thing with him. It's the same thing with him. It's the same thing with May. It's the same thing with Buehler. We need all 3 of them to figure it out. Because if they don't, this is going to be a problem come October. Especially if they're not going enough innings. That's going to be the real issue here. But I don't know what's going on. I have felt very confident with the pitching staff this last week. A couple of them have stuck out, made great outings. And then there's the other side of things where they only go 3 or 4 innings, then you wear out the bullpen. So we will see what goes on there. But
now, I kind of have a random question for you. But so Kershaw got into a little bit of trouble the other day in the 7th inning. Would you have left him in, or was the right move to take him out?
I don't know. Hindsight, you think leave him in. In the moment, I just feel like we've seen this so many times.
Taking him out was the right decision. I just don't think it should have been Baez.
Yeah, Baez seems to never be good when he inherits runners. So I don't think Baez was the right move, kind of like you said. A ground ball pitcher probably would have been more ideal there.
Yeah.
But I see where they came from because the 7th inning has kind of always been Kershaw's downfall. Especially when he was at as many pitches as he was. It's not like he was at 70 or 81 pitches. Like, he was up there.
Yeah, like 99, I think.
Yeah, it was getting up there, and I think it was back-to-back hits. Like, he wasn't getting hit all night, and then all of a sudden they're hitting him. Like, that's usually when it becomes concerning, the 3rd time through the lineup. So I understood Robert's decision to pull him. I understood why Kershaw was upset by that, especially when the 2 other runs came across to score, and he goes from 6 1/3 innings, 1 earned run, to 6 1/3, 3 earned runs, and he wasn't even the one on the mound to give up those runs. That's probably got to sting even more. So I don't know. I saw someone on Twitter say I want to say it was Chad Moriyama, or
Moriyama, yeah.
Moriyama, okay. Moriyama, or maybe it was Dustin Nosler. One of them mentioned, though, that Roberts had lost the clubhouse by pulling Kershaw out of that game, and said that he's lost the clubhouse. He did the same thing to Rich Hill and Ross Stripling, and now both those players hate him, and they have not been the same since. I don't know if I would go that far, but I could see a little bit of the concern of pulling Kershaw and then having it blow up in your face like that. It's just not ideal at all to have that keep happening. So I hope he's wrong. I hope Roberts did.
Yeah, if he's lost the clubhouse, that's not a good sign for things to come.
Yeah, so I feel like he did a really good job last night with Gonsolin. I feel like he did not pull him too early. He could have gone out there another inning. However, Gonsolin had never gone 7 innings in his career before. He'd never even gotten an out in the 7th inning prior to last night. So I could see why they're not like, hey, let's go and throw him another full inning, because he's at, I think it was like 88 pitches, 89 pitches, something like that. So I know some fans were upset, but I was okay with the move.
Actually, I wanted him to go out for the eighth just to start it and kind of just play it by ear and see what happens. If somebody would have got on or his command would have been off, then I would have pulled him.
Yeah.
But but I don't hate the move. I thought it was fine.
Yeah, I'm kind of at the same place as you. I didn't mind it. I would have been fine with him going out. I'm wondering, though, if there's a concern that Roberts looks back at Monday's game and goes, hey, last time I let a starter do this, 2 guys got on, and then look what happened. Like, maybe he just felt comfortable giving a relief pitcher a clean inning to work with, like Ferguson, instead of because Ferguson's been struggling. Clearly he wanted to get Ferguson in there, and so maybe his thought process was, I need Ferguson in there tonight. Ferguson has been struggling, so the last thing I want to do is bring Ferguson in with a tying run at the plate or on first base in the 8th inning. So I could see that a little bit. I would have been fine with him going out, though, and seeing what happened. 7 innings, though, fantastic. Can't complain much. Something I do want to touch on, though, that happened in last night's game that you and I actually talked about a little bit later after the fact, was Kenley Jansen getting yet another chance at the closer role after blowing the one game, or what has it been, 2 games in a row now? Or he didn't blow the one in Arizona, but he gave up a lot of runs.
He didn't, no. It was close.
Yeah, it was close, but he didn't blow it. And then he had the one against the Astros. So here's kind of my question. Well, not so much a question. It's more of a conversation, discussion we can have really quickly. But I don't know if anyone else in that bullpen stresses you out as much as Kenley Jansen does, like he does for me. I don't think there's anyone else that comes out of that bullpen, no matter the situation, that I have anxiety and like an actual sickness in my stomach when he pitches. In situations last night, when the bases are loaded, there's one out, he kills me. We are at that point where, like, I have tried for years to give him a chance. Not for years. I don't want to act like this has been going on for 4 or 5 years, but on and off for the last 2-3 years, this has been happening. So a lot of people want to wonder, why does Roberts keep running Jansen out there when he's struggling the way he is? And I kind of gave you my thought on it last night, and I wanted to say this just because I'm hoping that, like, maybe some people might see it. I don't even know if I'm right, but I'm hoping maybe some people will see it and kind of see where Roberts is coming from. But my initial thought on it was that nobody else in that bullpen is more worrisome right now than Jansen. So the Dodgers need to figure out his role in that bullpen, whether it's closer, setup, relief at any time in the game. They have to figure it out. So my thought process was, if they put him in last night and he blows yet another save, that's pretty eye-opening to the Dodgers front office and, of course, Roberts, to go, hey, maybe this isn't our guy come October. But if they throw him out there and see that he bounces back after a huge blown save or whatever the case may be, like he was in there Monday night, he was in there Sunday, but it was a blowout against the Astros, so it didn't really matter. But I kind of feel like they're just throwing him out there to figure out what he can do, because now they can kind of see, like, hey, maybe he can bounce back. I'm still stuck on the closer by committee thing. I still am not comfortable with Jansen being our full-time closer. Thought about it a little bit more over these last few days, and I'm starting to actually come to the conclusion of how dumb I think a closer role actually is. No other position in baseball is guaranteed that spot, no matter how much they play. So why are we doing that with a closer? Your number one starting pitcher, your ace, does not get to have as many chances as Jansen does and still get to be your ace. No player on the field would get, I guess some could argue Kiké, but a lot of players, Kiké hasn't blown up though, like Jansen has. It's a very different position, but most players do not get as many opportunities as Jansen does at their position and to continue staying there. So I'm kind of getting over the whole closer role thing. I kind of just want, like, every other inning in the game, inning 1 through 8, if granted you have starters, usually 1 through 5, 1 through 6, whatever, but those last few innings of every single game, you put your best pitcher out there, best matchup, whoever is doing the best for you in that moment and can get you those outs. And that's what I want to see in the 9th inning. I I think you said you wanted what? Trinan was what you said you wanted as the closer? Is who?
Yeah, Trinan and bullpen by committee would be fine.
Yeah. I know a lot of people are stuck on Gratterall, and I get it. I get the excitement. I just think he's still so young, and we've seen the command issues, and he actually, like, hadn't really struck out that many people up until his last outing where he had that 3 strikeout inning. So
yeah.
I think he's definitely the future, and potentially even next year, even with Jansen still on the team. I just don't think I want all that on him right now. But that's just my thoughts on it.
I think there's no question that the Dodgers love Jansen. And he seems like a great guy, and that's fine. So that's probably why he keeps getting chances. But I don't know. I think last night was probably one of the worst things that could have happened because he got in trouble, then he got out of it. So, I'm just speculating here, but maybe in Robert's mind, it's okay. He went through adversity, he got through it. He's going to get over the hump now. I don't necessarily see it that way. He could have confidence now, but at the same time, I thought the same last year against the Yankees. He got into trouble, got out of it, got the save, but he wasn't really all that great the rest of the season either. So I don't know. It's more concerning that he continues to get into trouble than anything else. When he first got out there, his first at bat was against Tatis Jr., right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he had to face top of the lineup.
Yeah, I thought that at bat was good, and then it slowly started getting worse. Like the first few pitches to Machado were good, and then he left the fastball up there, and then his command got progressively worse, and he didn't know what was going on. And then it was a bloop single, so that was probably frustrating. You could see in his face, I think he was cussing. I couldn't read exactly what he was saying, but you could see on his face, it was like, you gotta be kidding me. Who was after Moreland? His command wasn't good against Will Myers either, but Will Myers bailed him out. So he did finish with 2 strikeouts. He struck out the last 2 batters, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But his command wasn't great. He got bailed out. You mentioned you get anxiety when he comes in. I've had that for 2.5, almost 3 years now. Every time he comes in, I'm just like, I hope I just have a big enough lead. Yesterday was at 3-1.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, he's gonna blow this, and I'm just gonna sit here like, well, maybe this will tell them it can't be him anymore. But since he got out of it, I think he's gonna continue to be that person, and I don't see good results in the future.
Yeah, I feel you there, because I think that's kind of where I'm at too when it comes to him. I don't ever want to say that I want the Dodgers to lose a game, that I want them to blow a game. But I will say I'd be lying if there weren't games last night where part of me kind of like wished he would have blown it, just because I want the Dodgers to move on. And like you said, it's kind of like good comes with the bad with last night. Like you said, he escaped the jam, but then there's also cool he escaped the jam, so now do they think he's going to be good and can keep going until he blows the next one? And so in my mind, it's like, dude, just blow 3 in a row and let us end this and like move on to a new closer, because you blowing 3 every other, or blowing 1 every other game to equal 3 keeps giving the Dodgers this like hope that, oh, he's going to get it together, when I think the fan base has kind of like made a decision themselves, whether or not, like, clearly the team will always know more, but I think the fan base, everyone kind of has their opinions, and I think the fan base has moved on for the most part. I don't want to say like they all think he shouldn't be closer, because there are definitely people who still want him out there as closer, and that's fine. But I think the fan base has at least acknowledged that he's nowhere near really the same guy he was. And that there is no such thing as a guaranteed kind of win when you put him on the mound, unfortunately. So I don't know. Part of me,
I think I like the bullpen by committee. I would like to see like trying. I know Kelly's just coming back, but Kelly. But after that, I'm struggling to figure out who else to throw in there. Maybe Galera can get a shot. I'm still iffy on him. He's been really good this year, but I don't know. Every time he comes in, I'm just like, okay, if he's facing a lefty, I don't have an issue. But when the righties come up, he's been getting them out, but I'm still like, I don't know what's going on here.
And that's a big reason why.
Who else could it really be?
I mean, there's also McGee, I think.
McGee's been pretty good, yeah. But I feel like he's had some rocky outings as well recently.
The thing though that like I struggle with the most is this is why I hate the 3-batter rule. Because closer by committee, obviously you don't want to bring in a different closer for every single batter, but if you bring in Kolarek, let's say 2 lefties, 2 righties, first 4 batters. He gets those 2 lefties, or no, sorry, let me do it a different way because that would equal 3. Let's go 2 righties, 2 lefties. So he faces the lefties. He's better against them. They're at the back end. If he gives up those 2 hits, he still has to face that lefty, which is fine. He's good against lefties. But if it's 3 righties and he gives up back-to-back hits, he still has to face that righty again. And I just don't like that. I don't like that he has to be forced to stay in. Again, it's no other position in baseball does a player have to stay in for a certain amount of innings. Obviously a starting pitcher has to be in there to have a chance at the win, but you're still allowed to pull your starter whenever you want. So I think that rule kind of hurts the Dodgers a little bit more than anything because they are huge on matchups. But
definitely, I know they want to cut down time, but it really takes away from strategy, and that's pretty annoying.
I also don't think it has really cut down on time. Like, I think there's other things that have cut down on time. As much as I hate the extra inning rule, and as much as I said like it doesn't, it does cut back on time. But I really don't think this whole 3-batter minimum has actually done much, because we have ended up in 4-hour games already this season, and they were like. It was like a 9 or 10 inning game. It wasn't even like it was 14, 15 innings. It was just a long ass game. So sometimes it actually takes longer because, if you have to leave a guy in for 3 batters and this guy sucks and he gives up 3 hits, that inning might go longer than having a guy come in, get 2 quick outs, and then pull him and bring another guy in and get that 3rd out. So really the strategy about the whole time thing, I don't agree with it, but it's how the sport is. And it's not beneficial for our bullpen at times, but I think they've done a better job of working on it. And Kolarek may give you stress, but at this point, I'm not sure anyone gives me more stress than Jansen, so I'm willing to try it.
Oh, absolutely not. No.
I'm willing to try it. So let's get into what's been kind of a big discussion. Playing the Padres this week, obviously huge.
Honestly, I didn't even know this was a big discussion.
Well, it is. It was. I don't know. We'll get into it so we can share it. But Monday night, everybody saw Trent Grisham's home run against Kershaw, where, quite frankly, when he hit the ball, I thought he fouled it off the way he kind of spun around. Like, I thought, oh, it's a foul ball. Like, MLB at bat said it was a home run, and, like, I watch it on a Roku, so it's delayed like 2 pitches, so I have to watch it on game day on my iPad and on the TV. And so the game day was like home run. And then I see him do that and I'm like, wait, no, it's a foul ball. So MLB got this wrong. And then all of a sudden I realize, wait, shit, it's a home run. I will say initially, I did not like the pimp job. It upset me. But then I think I realized more than anything where I was coming from was who it was on the mound. Was that it was Kershaw, someone who doesn't ever really do stuff like that. And I think it was the chirping at the dugout that got me a little bit more than anything at the end. But after thinking on it, after hearing Kershaw's comments on it, I thought about it more yesterday morning, and I kind of changed my entire mind on it. I'm okay with it. It's good for baseball. Baseball needs it. It pisses me off because it's my team. But if the Dodgers did that, I'd be right there defending them. And so there's a lot of people, though, who are angry because I posted about it on the Dodger Yard account. And there's a lot of people who said he deserved to, like, take one in the ear hole or get hit or whatever the case may be, which I never agree with. I don't agree with throwing at a player's head. But yeah, there was a lot. I'm assuming you don't care because you said you didn't know there was a big conversation around this, but it was a pretty damn big deal when it first happened.
Yeah, so I saw you put it on the doc, and I was like, wait, what? Yeah, so much like you, when it first happened, um, the way he acted, I was like, is he mad because he just missed it or something? Because I don't know, like I had glanced at him in the way he kind of spun around, and I was like, oh, he's upset. I was expecting a fly ball to Betts, and then it kept going, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then he rounded third, and he was yelling stuff at the dugout, and I was like, what the hell is going on here? Um, I have no issue. I don't care. It's the reason why I love Tim Anderson. And furthermore, this is somebody who made like a crucial error in a playoff game last year. He's having a really good season this year. He hit a home run off a certified Hall of Famer, the best pitcher of this generation, and it's a close division race. That home run deserves some pimping. I would have pimped it too. I know a lot of fans will probably be upset because it happened against the Dodgers. I personally don't care whether it's against the Dodgers or anybody else. If you hit a long home run, it deserves to be pimped. I have no issue with it at all.
Yeah. I'm on the same page. Like I said, my initial reaction was I was pissed off. And then I explained it a little bit more, or thought about it a little bit more, because I realized it was more so about Kershaw. It was more so that it happened to my team. But then I put it into perspective, and I was like, well, look, if the Dodgers did this, would I really be that mad? And I was like, Kershaw doesn't give a shit. Kershaw came after the game and like basically said, I don't care. Good for him. I wasn't even focused on him. I was focusing on like my game, what I need to do, which is good. That's what he should be doing. Pitchers should not be like sitting there like what Bumgarner does and start chirping at the batters to run down the line. Like that's the last thing we need, is for Kershaw or one of our pitchers to do something like that. So I'm all for it. I don't have a problem with Grisham. Like you said, he's had a hell of a year. He does have a little bit of an attitude or personality that I don't think is a bad thing, but it bothers me because he's on the Padres and that fan base is all of a sudden like talking a lot of shit. So it's not even the players. I think a lot of times that upset fans. I think it's the fan bases that you have to deal with when those players do those things. Because like,
see, that I can understand. You're on Twitter much more than I am, so I get getting backlash from fans. That I can understand, being upset about that. I don't think I'd let it bother me too much, or I just be like, I'm not going on Twitter after this game.
Yeah, a lot of times I won't check my mentions right when something happens, because I know like my reaction is I'll just get mad, so I just don't check them until like I've thought about my actual
calm down.
Yeah, until I actually know what I feel and I'm not reacting in the moment. Because like I had a Padres fan. I have a few Padres fans who follow me, and they came into my mentions and they were like, oh, you were complaining about this. And I'm like, dude, I already went over this. I don't care. I was like, can you go bother a Dodger fan who's actually still bitching about this? Like, this isn't even worth my time. I was like, I've been defending the Padres to the Dodgers all year. Like, this is just, we don't need to do this. And they ended up leaving me alone and were like, okay, cool. And like things are good the rest of the night. I ended up posting about Gonsolin having a hell of an outing. And like one of the Padres fans comes on and goes, I told you, like he always kicks our ass. And I was like, okay, cool. This is the kind of stuff that I enjoy. It makes it fun. But I think it's good for the sport. I think it's good for baseball. And I have been complaining at least for a couple of years now about how bad the Giants have been, and recently complaining more so about the rivalry and how I feel like it'll always be a rivalry, but when one of the teams is as bad as the Giants has been, it's just not as fun. I think the Padres and their fan base are going to give us some excitement in the NL West, and I'm actually all for it. I love Tatis. I love the way he plays the game. I know a lot of Dodger fans hate Machado and think he didn't try for the Dodgers. I 100% think that is false, and I've got no problem with what Machado did as a Dodger and his time here. Sure, maybe there were some questionable like decisions that he made, but overall, I think he catches way too much heat from Dodger fans. So I've got no issue. The only Padre that I'm not a big fan of is Chris Paddock. But we've also kind of destroyed, just because his whole thing, like, I don't know. This is probably the purest. This is probably the purist in me that's talking, but I don't know if I'm a big fan of a rookie coming in the league acting like he's got everything in it, like, on top of the world, like the whole sheriff thing and the whole, I don't know. I just felt like he got all this hype and now he hasn't really done much for them. And I just would have liked a little bit more of kind of, I'm blanking on the word, but I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of a body of work. There it is from him, before, like, I don't know. I won't get mad at him for it. I just don't like him. I think, again, I don't even think it's actually him. I think it's their fan base that has hyped him up to be the whole thing he is. He's probably not even the guy that I think he is in my head. I think it's more Padre fans going, oh, this guy's going to kill you. He's going to own the Dodgers. And it's like every time the Dodgers put up like 4 or 5 runs on him.
Yeah.
So it's
he's been good against everybody else except the Dodgers.
This year.
That's how I see it.
It is, but not this year. It is, but not this year. He's had a pretty not good year. He's got a 4.7 ERA on the year. Yeah, and he's got 4 losses. So I don't know what's going on there.
He's still young too, though.
Yeah.
So,
No, he's 24.
He's definitely got potential. There's no question about it.
Yeah, and he's clearly got the confidence.
They should probably pump the brakes on him.
He's clearly got the confidence, and I respect the fan base jumping behind their players like that. But I also think sometimes it doesn't help the players because then you put this huge weight on them and they expect to carry the team. And now he's kind of like, luckily for them, not for us, they got Clevenger. So I think Clevenger picks up that ace role that a lot of them expected Paddock to take. But yeah, no, I don't dislike Paddock as a person. I don't like him as a player, but I think that's because of the fan base. I don't know anything about him as a person, so I can't make a comment on that. But more so than anything.
Since we're talking about the Padres, I wanted to ask you something. Now, the Padres' remaining schedule are the Mariners, Angels, and Giants. So it's not really the toughest of schedules. Can or will the Padres catch the Dodgers in the standings?
I mean,
only 2.5 back.
First things first. Can't disrespect the Mariners like that. Just kidding. I know where you're coming from. The Mariners haven't been a good team, but they have been giving the Astros a run for their money. So they do have an easy schedule. I don't know how much I'd put it past them to just cruise through. But compared to our schedule, we don't have it. We don't have it hard because we have 3 against the Angels, 4 against the Rockies. But Colorado, you never know how things are going to go. And then the A's are really good this year. So I don't know how that'll pan out. To answer your question, I really don't know. I want to lean more towards no, but I almost worry that that's my bias and not my honest answer. Only reason I want to lean more towards yes is because we've heard Roberts now really get into this whole playoff thing that there is no advantage to win the division. I think a lot of people have talked about the Padres are playing as if it's the playoffs for them. Well, granted, they haven't made the playoffs in, what has it been, over 10 years, since 2009, something like that. So for them, it is playing for the playoffs. For the Dodgers don't give one shit about winning the NL West. Sure, they want it because it looks good and it gives them the advantage, but not in 2020. So I don't think they're playing with the same sense of urgency that the Padres are. Padres.
I was gonna ask you another question. Should the Dodgers, I don't want to say intentionally move down, because as it sits, they play the Cardinals, either the Cardinals or Giants. But if they move down, then they play like the Marlins. I mean, they play the Padres regardless, but they might have an easier time with the Marlins than they do the Cardinals or Giants because they always seem to give the Dodgers issues.
I don't know if they should intentionally do that because it just might not be good morale going into the postseason, but I get your point because the Giants, for some reason, love to play us as if it's a World Series game every time we play them. So the idea of playing them is a little bit stressful, and then we all know how Dodger fans feel about the Cardinals. So I don't know. For me, the biggest thing out of 2020 was, I told you, Mookie Betts. And now that the season is actually being played and looks like it's going to finish, my biggest thing was win the NL West because I want you guys to keep that going. When it comes to the World Series, I've I will not root against them, but I've got a thing with the first one in my lifetime being a year that we can't go to a parade, something like that. I can't celebrate with my friends. So I have a really hard time of like saying, yes, I really, really, really want them to win this year. Obviously, if they win, I'll be excited. I'm not going to pretend like I'm going to be all upset. It's just less motivation for me as a fan to want to see them get that far. I don't think they feel that way, but I think they might feel that way about the NL West. Kind of like, we've done this now for 7 years. Do we really care about winning another one? Like, let's figure out what we need to do, where things are going wrong, where players are fixing things in their batting stance. Like, you said you were paying attention to Lux's feet the other night. Did you see what you wanted to see? Were there any adjustments being made?
With Lux, I wanted to say that the thing I noticed in his 4 or 5 games where he actually looked good, his front foot was slightly more to the side and up. And then the next game, it was like he had that big game against Arizona. The next game, it was back down, and it's pretty much stayed here. His front foot has stayed even with his shoulders and stayed down on the ground. So I don't know why he's tinkering with that, but it was working. When his foot was up, kind of like Rios' foot is up, his front foot is up in the batter's box. So what I noticed is his foot was down again. He did hit the ball hard his first at bat, and then got fooled. And I guess he was looking for a fastball, but he just watched a breaking ball right down the middle. So
you did see adjustments from him, is what you're saying, like,
yeah,
to some extent,
but not ones that I particularly like, but I mean, Square was comfortable for him, obviously.
Okay, so that's kind of where I'm going with right now with the season. Is I feel like that's a lot of what's going on, is the team is figuring out, like, Lux, I think, is not, I don't know if he's focused on playoffs. I feel like he shouldn't be, but like, he might be adjusting things up there every at bat. There might be different pitchers doing stuff. Like, personally, that's where I think the Dodgers are at mentally. I obviously have nothing to run off with this, but I just don't know if they even have the motivation to really win the NL West, knowing that there's no advantage besides you playing in your home stadium, which is like great. Who really cares all that? Like, cool, yes, the players get to sleep in their own beds, which is awesome. They don't have to go to a hotel, nothing like that, especially for the Dodgers who finished their series in LA. It would be great if they didn't have to travel and could have those 2 off days in LA. But, like, it doesn't really matter. So what are they really playing for right now? They're almost guaranteed to be in the playoffs. So there's really nothing going around from that. So I don't think it's as big of a deal as it really is. I feel like they're more trying to figure out what the hell they're going to do. Goes back to my whole Jansen theory that I feel like they're trying to figure out what guys can go in what spots. It could have something to do with May coming out of the bullpen today. Otherwise, I don't really know why you go back to a bullpen game 3 days after you just had one on Sunday. So my kind of guess is they're playing with a ton of different things, trying to figure it out, and we'll kind of see what happens. And if that is the case, then yes, I believe there's a very good chance that the Padres will catch the Dodgers in the standings if that ends up happening that way.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Padres can catch the Dodgers, but will they? I'm going to go with yes.
Okay. See, I think I have to lean more towards no, but it would not be shocking.
Just because the Padres are playing really well right now, despite losing yesterday, and the Dodgers are kind of just middling.
Yeah, the Padres were on an 8-game win streak until last night, and they've been on, I think they were on an 8-game win streak a couple weeks ago too. So they're playing as if they want that NL West division title, whereas the Dodgers are just playing like, can we get to October?
They're trying to figure things out.
Yeah, and like, can we get to October and let me get my tinkering in, and then I'll be good to go. We'll see. But speaking on October, I feel like fans already know about this, so we'll just give our quick opinions. But yesterday it was announced that it's official. I think it was yesterday, right? Yeah, yesterday. They're having a bubble. This is official. We all thought it was coming. However, they reached an agreement because players had to agree with MLB. And so this is kind of quick breakdown what's happening. Neutral site bubbles for the Division Series, League Championship Series, and the World Series. Families will be permitted to quarantine with players on contenders for 7 days leading into the postseason, then remain together for entirety of playoff run. And families who choose that option will be considered part of the bubble. Families of players also will have the option to enter the bubble prior to a later series. Families of managers and coaches not covered by the deal, because there's not enough capacity in the hotels for them initially, but will be as the field narrows. So everyone inside the bubbles will be tested daily. So basically, bubble. We already know what's happening. The playoffs start on Tuesday, September 29th with the AL Wildcard Series, and then it begins on Tuesday for the it begins on Wednesday, September 30th for the NL teams. Everybody's in the Wildcard Series this year if you're in the playoffs. There is no bye. I think they said during the 3-game series there is not an off day. I don't know if that's the case between the NLDS and NLCS too. I'm blanking on that, but they did say that there weren't going to be nearly as many off days, which kind of makes sense because they're adding this extra round of playoffs. So it'll be interesting. I'm not a huge fan of the Dodgers having to potentially win a World Series in Texas. Luckily, it would be at the Rangers Stadium and not Minute Maid, although I guess it would be kind of funny to see the Astros not in the World Series and the Dodgers win it on their field, but I kind of want the Dodgers to not have to deal with that field. So I don't know. I'm not a big fan of it. Apparently Manfred is talking more of his bullshit, saying that the owners are commending this and they might look into doing it in the future playoffs, which would be awful, I think, for the sport. There's multiple below 500 teams getting into the playoffs. We don't need that in a 162-game season. So I'm not a big fan of it. I'm okay with it for 2020, but it needs to stay in 2020, and that's kind of where I am at on that.
So yeah, as far as the bubble goes, like I understand them not wanting to have quote unquote home games and they want the neutral sites. The bubble itself is fine. I think it'll work for the teams there. I don't like that the NL teams go to the AL parks and the AL teams go to the NL parks. I would much rather have the Dodgers and everybody else in the NL play in California and the AL play in, I don't know, like New York or something, and then have the World Series at Global Life. Since it is a new park and you want to showcase it, that's fine. I have no issue with that. Yeah, I'm not a fan of the bubble. And as far as the adding on extra teams into the playoffs, it's stupid. The NBA already does this. I mean, I guess we did see an upset last night with the Nuggets beating the Clippers, but how often does that really happen? I don't see any point to it, to be honest.
Not to mention, I feel like what a lot of people miss when it comes to stuff like this is what about the actual excitement to the game? Like, let's be honest. Who is going to draw more attention, the Nuggets or the Clippers? I think that's a pretty, I think the Clippers probably would have got a lot more attention. It would have probably been, I don't know much about basketball, so I can't talk too much about it, but I kind of feel like people would have been more excited. There would have been more people tuning into a Clippers game than there would be. I mean, they do have Paul George, they have Kawhi instead of the Nuggets.
Yes, Clippers Lakers definitely would have been much more appealing.
And that's what I kind of think about. So, like, let's pretend the Dodgers lose in the first round to whoever it may be. Like, this is not what I think is going to happen. I'm just TV-wise. Like, does anybody really want to see a Marlins and Giants, like, NLCS? I don't think so. I don't think there's anyone that wants to tune into that. And I feel, besides their fan base, and I feel like that's a bigger issue with the 16 games is you potentially match up for these awful playoff rounds. That just aren't going to be fun for really anybody but those fan bases. And it might not even be that good a baseball. Like, people want to see Clayton Kershaw, the Max Scherzers, the Jacob deGroms. Like, obviously, Nats aren't doing well this year. Obviously, the Mets do their thing every year. You never know, really. They're just kind of a mess. But at least those teams have the potential to be in the
dumpster fire.
Yeah, but they at least have the potential to be in the playoffs because of talent, whereas the Marlins, teams like the Orioles, like, I don't want to take away from them. They're still beating these teams, but like in a full 162 season, where do the Yankees actually show up when they have time to get their players healed and back on the field? Like, are the Orioles really going to be
they're
this?
probably close to a 1 seed.
Yeah, like, are they really closing in on them? It's the same thing with the NL East. Like, does that really happen if they have a chance to have all their the Nats have a chance to have all their guys out there, whatever the case may be? Like, if you have Juan Soto to start the season instead of a false positive, like, does their season start differently? Like, all of that stuff matters, and I just feel like it's going to very much dilute the playoffs and the excitement of the playoffs if teams outside of the division winners and like maybe one actual wild card team, not this like 16 team thing, but like an actual wild card team. I don't think it's going to be a good playoff if it's not a division winner or an actual wild card team, not this whole 16 team thing. So yeah, I don't know. I don't care for it. I know we said we didn't want to talk too much. I like the bubble idea. However, this whole we're going to have a bubble and potentially have fans in Texas is incredibly stupid. It defeats the purpose of a bubble, not to mention home field advantage. Not to mention you're going to have Dodger fans go to Texas. So now we're dealing with going to Texas and then you're taking two hot spots and putting fans driving across the country to different places, getting on planes. Like, it just all seems like a disaster. I don't even know why we're talking about fans showing up to games. But yeah, no.
There were fans at the Chiefs game on opening night.
Yeah, there were, and I would have felt differently of it if the Dodgers were not having to play at a non-stadium that isn't theirs in a state that most of them hate the Dodgers and would probably show up to the game to try and root against them. Like, it's very different when the Dodgers don't get any chance to play at their home field outside of that first round, and like the Chiefs, they had fans, but at the same time, like, it was their first game of the season. So now they're starting that way. I think bringing them into the playoffs or bringing them into just the World Series is not a good idea. Like, we've made it this far, just leave it alone. The way things are going, we'll be lucky to have spring training next year. So, like, just also don't put the players in that position. Like, let the players feel good, safe, let them do their things. They've already said no alcohol is allowed in the celebrations. I don't know if you saw that. Players are not allowed to shoot.
I did not. No.
Yeah, they're not allowed to shoot champagne.
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And I see players complaining about it, and I'm just like, I get it, but dude, come on. You guys are already playing. You guys are already doing like basically everything you wanted to do. Like, how much more, like, do you guys want to get to break protocol? Because Wood was like, well, can we do it in the concourse or on the field? And it's like, I don't think that's the issue. The issue is a player putting their mouth on the bottle and then spraying it all over 10 other players. Like, I think that's the issue, not being indoors just itself. So, it's kind of lame. I hope whichever team wins the World Series tells Manfred to fuck off and just does it, because at that point it's not going to matter anyways. The bubble, there's no reason. Teams don't need to be safe anymore at that point. So I hope whatever team wins it celebrates, because whether or not fans want to count this, it's still an incredibly difficult season, and whoever wins that World Series is going to have earned it. And I think those players deserve to celebrate it. So but yeah, that's where I'm at with the playoff bubble. Not a big fan of it. We shall see what happens, though. I mean, I'm a fan of the bubble, not a fan of the playoffs itself. But that's about it. So let's get into our predictions very quickly, and then we can sign off because we've got a game in a couple hours, less than 2 hours now. So last week's episode, we gave our predictions. I went a little bit on the heavier side for the wins. I predicted we'd go 4-2. I said we'd sweep the D-backs, lose one to Houston, lose one to San Diego. I was right, except for the sweeping the D-backs. We ended up losing that one to Bumgarner, lost one to Houston, and lost one to San Diego. So the actual record came out at 3-3, which I think fits your prediction, right? Or did you say 2-4?
Yeah, I said 3-3, but they could go 2-4 just because they haven't really been playing well. So, yeah.
Okay, so then both of us were pretty much right there. We were either right on it or off by one game. So usually we do this by the weeks, but because of the way next week episode's going to line up with only 4 games left of the regular season at that point, we just want to get the predictions for the rest of the season out of the way, so next week we can mostly focus on the playoffs. So this will be from tonight's game until the end of the season on September 27th. So we have the one more against the Padres tonight. Then we head to Colorado for a 4-game series. They have their last off day on Monday. and then head home and play 3 against the A's and 3 against the Angels. So I think we beat the Padres tonight. It could go either way, or today. It could go either way. I really don't know. But I just, that's what I'm going with. I'm going high on the wins again here. I don't know why. It's not like they've been playing for me to playing like they deserve a bunch of wins on their end, but I don't know why. I'm just going with it. So I think we take the 1 from the Padres tonight. I think we take 3 in Colorado, and I think we take 2 from the A's and 2 from the Angels, coming out with the last 11 games with an 8-3 record, which sounds insane the way they've been playing, but that's fine. This whole season's been insane, so that's what I'm going with.
Okay, I'm actually not too far off. I did want to say that today's game will probably be another tough one because the Padres are a good team. The Colorado games are always annoying. The A's currently have the 3rd best record in the AL, and the Angels have always kind of played the Dodgers tough, except for that series in Anaheim, which is a little weird. But I think the return of Turner is going to help the offense some. I still have questions about the bullpen. So I was leaning more towards 6-5, but 6-5.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go on the positive side and say they'll be 7-4 the rest of the way. I think they'll start to play a little better.
Which I think is all they really need. I don't think they really need. They don't need to go 8-3. I think they really just need to play 500 baseball. Well, 1 game over 500, I think, for the rest of the season, and they should be good as long as the Padres don't go off on like a 10-game or 11-game winning streak.
I want to see them play slightly better. Whether they win or lose, I want them to play better as a team.
Yep.
I think that's what I'm looking more so than anything.
That's what I felt yesterday or Monday night after we lost that game. Like, that was my big thing. Was I tweeted out, I had said, I don't even care about the record right now. I said I want the Dodgers to win, but I need them to play good baseball because we have not seen that. Last night was good baseball. Maybe not certain at bats. Like, Jock is a disaster out there. I don't even know what's happening at this point. But we didn't see a bunch of base running errors. We didn't see a bunch of defensive errors. We didn't see any pitching blow up besides Jansen not walking, but bases loaded. But he did work out of it. So I was much happier with last night's game than a lot of the stuff we've been seeing over the last week. So I'm with you. If the Dodgers play good baseball, there's no team that's going to beat them, and there's no way the Padres catch them in the standings. But it all depends on whether or not they play good baseball. And recently we have seen that it can really go either way. But yeah, that was it for tonight. Like we said, Dustin May is no longer starting. He will be pitching at some point out of the bullpen. Gratterall gets to start tonight. I think it's against Morgan is who the Padres have on the mound. But we'll see how that goes. I just want the win. I want good baseball, but I'd also like the win. That's all I've got. Did you have anything else you had to say?
No, yeah. Like you mentioned, I kind of just want to see good baseball. That's it.
Yeah. So with that said, make sure you guys leave a review, rate the podcast, check us out on social at Dodger Yard. You can find my personal at Randy_Radcliffe.
And my personal is Michael Konu, MYKALKONU.
And we hope you guys have a good rest of your morning, night, afternoon, whenever it is you listen to this. And we will catch you guys next week for the last episode of the regular season. So hope you guys have a good rest of your day, and we'll talk to you next week. Bye, guys.
See you later, guys.